Hey everybody, Ollie here for the weekly news recap, the 19th to the 25th of February 2024. Started a little bit, well, a lot late today, I suppose. Had something to do earlier, again. Anyway, there was a Nintendo Direct this week, so we're just going to quickly go through some of the games that were mentioned. Grounded, formerly a Xbox exclusive thing. It's by Obsidian, who are now an Xbox first party. So this will be one of the games of the four games that Microsoft mentioned that will be going cross-platform. Grounded being the kind of Honey I Shrunk the Kids, the video game, where you play shrunken children out in the back garden and have to deal with ants and spiders and various different things to figure out a way to get big again and get back into the house and so on. This will be cross-platform multiplayer, 16th of April. This was done during the Nintendo Direct, but it is also coming to PlayStation as well. Moving on after that, we had Ender Magnolia's Blooms in the Mist, which is a sequel to Ender Lilies, which is a kind of Metroidvania type thing. It's pretty cool. I quite liked Ender Lilies. Never finished it because it's quite hard. Anyway, and then Ender Magnolia sequel will be out later this year. Arranger, a role puzzling adventure out later this summer. This looked kind of interesting. So not Chromecast, straight to YouTube, please. So Arranger, a role-playing adventure, a role-puzzling adventure. This is from the same people who made Carto and who made Braid, as you can see there, as well. So they kind of take genres that you're sort of used to and then change them up a little bit. Like Braid is very much a platformer, but then also very much not a platformer. Arranger here looks like it's going to be your pretty standard top-down RPG, but as you can see, it's very, very different. Like all of the tiles shuffle with you and that kind of thing. This looks like it'll be pretty interesting. Looking forward to seeing this. It'll be out later this year at some point. No specific date given. Unicorn Overlord is the next thing from Vanilla. What's their full name? Don't remember. Anyway, it's coming out pretty soon. It'll be out not next week, the week after. There is a demo available on Nintendo Switch eShop. There's also a demo available on PlayStation. If you want to check that out, I have it downloaded myself. I have not got around to it. It is allegedly a very beefy demo. It's about 5 hours of gameplay, and you will be able to take your save across into the full game if you choose. Monster Hunter Stories has been remastered. No, I think it's like it's a full remake of the original game. The original game was on the Nintendo DS. Monster Hunter Stories is kind of Pokemon, but Monster Hunter. Sort of like that. You partner up with the different monsters in the same way you would partner up with Pokemon and go into combat. The only real difference is you are also in combat at the same time, instead of Pokemon, where all the Pokemon do all the fighting for you. Summer 2024 at some point. I'm not sure how well Monster Hunter Stories 2 did, but it must have done well enough that they decided to remake it as well. Capcom seem to be all about their remakes these days, and not too many brand new IPs, other than the dinosaur thing that wasn't Dino Crisis and should have been Dino Crisis. Anyway, speaking of remakes, Disney Epic Mickey Rebrushed, also getting a remake. The Nintendo Wii original will be arriving some point in 2024. This is another from the ground up remake of the original. If you don't remember it, Epic Mickey was this game where you played as Mickey Mouse. You jump into a 3D platforming environment. I'll play the trailer. Actually, it'll be easier, give you a better gist of what I'm talking about. And you use this special magic brush that could bring things to life, or things that you didn't want to be alive onto life, I suppose. How does that work? We'll skip to gameplay. A lot of this trailer is set up. Finds Yen Sid's magic brush, goes a bit nuts with it, ends up destroying the whole place. Is there actually any fucking gameplay in this trailer, or is it all just CG? Yeah, this trailer's all CG. Alright, apologies for that. The one in the Nintendo Direct actually had gameplay on it, so maybe check that one out as well. But yeah, it's a pretty standard 3D platformer, but it had some really interesting mechanics. I'd be curious how the Wiimote controls would carry across, because you could use it like a paintbrush, you know. How does that carry across to the Switch? Obviously the Switch has motion controls, but if you're going to play it docked, is that still going to work? And so on. Okami worked fine. Okami was a Wii exclusive for a while, and that also used a paintbrush kind of thing, but it made the transition perfectly fine. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is Atlus's usual thing where it comes back to a game it made 3 years ago and then makes it again and adds DLC and then doesn't allow you to just download the DLC and insists you buy the full game instead. They keep fucking doing this. Anyway, 21st of June, you'll be able to play Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. It does have a new expansion campaign, and then the main story kind of interweaves with it now as well. It's sort of the same way they did Persona 5 Royale. Royale? Don't remember. Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection contains 2 of the Battlefront games, so not the third one, the one that nobody liked. First 2, the one that everybody did like. Star Wars Battlefront. What they've changed for the Battlefront collection is that you'll be able to do 64-player online, and include some additional new modes like Hero Assault, where you'll be able to play as just the heroes or just the villains, as the case may be, as well. South Park Snow Day, which is going to be a shitty live service co-op thing that no one's going to want to play. But anyway, it's coming out at the end of March. Sword Art Online, Fractured Daydream. I know nothing about Sword Art Online. It's like an MMO that bleeds across into the real world or something like that. Is that what the anime is about? I thought it was over. Anyway, it's still going. This new game, again, I don't know anything about the story, but it's going to be a single-player thing. It'll be out later this year. More anime stuff. Gundam Breaker 4. Again, Gundam is definitely over, but they're still making games from it. They'll be out later this year. I think it's a sort of brawler type game where enemies you defeat, you can kind of get their parts and make your own Gundam out of like, the various parts that you collect from downing other enemies. Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble will be out later, 25th of June. This again, it's more Super Monkey Ball shenanigans. 200 new stages, 4-player local co-op, and kind of crazy the 16-player online thing, which looks a lot like Fall Guys, really. And I'm very curious how that plays, because Super Monkey Ball, if you're not familiar with the game series, I can't remember when the last one came out, but you are a monkey in a ball. And the game, you don't really control the monkey so much as you sort of control the world, I think, around it, and you sort of tilt it in such a way that you can build up speed and that kind of thing. So how that's going to play with 16 people all tilting the world all at the same time? That's going to be a bit weird. I wonder, do they like average it out? Do like people who are further ahead, do their tilts get more weight in the averaging or something like that? I'll be curious to see how they play it. Anyway, that would be interesting. I don't really have much interest in the game. I'm more interested in the technical side of it, to be honest. All right, World of Goo 2 will be a Nintendo Switch exclusive, at least for console. Might actually be on PC at some point. 23rd of May. The original World of Goo came out fucking years ago at this point. So I'm not sure how many people would remember it. But it is a series where you sort of just build up goo constructs to sort of solve puzzles and get your way through the world. A bit like building a bridge out of goo, and then sometimes you're just a big blob and you need to work your way through a level. Sometimes the blob gets split up. By the end of the level, you need to get all of the pieces back together all at the end at the same time. Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, is a Stardew Valley with time travel kind of thing. Fantasy Life idea of it is that you can swap jobs sort of on the fly. You can be a miner, you can be a farmer, you can be a warrior, and so on. Kind of swap hats and stuff like that. And you unlock different hats as the game goes through, and you can upgrade them to do different things and so on. But the idea is you're going back in time. You're stealing resources from the past to improve the future, which feels like it's the wrong way to do it, but okay. Anyway, that's out middle of October, so that one's pretty far away. Another Crab's Treasure is from Aggro Crab themselves. They describe the game as baby's first Dark Souls. You are a crab, a hermit crab who's had their shell stolen. You are on a quest to get it back. It plays like a Souls game. You know, it has that, centered melee combat thing, very slow-paced attacking and, very punishing damage and that kind of thing. But it's played for jokes. It does have a sort of, we're polluting the ocean message going on, and some of the creatures down there are going a bit crazy because of the pollution, and there's plastic all over the fucking place, and it's not a great feeling to think that there's all this shit going on. But at the same time, Aggro Crab are very humorous. Like their last game that I played was called Going Under. It was a sort of satire of startups, tech startups, and I was like, this is hitting a little close to home. That's a bit on the nose. Ouch. Yep, I can certainly remember all of that. Anyway, hopefully they'll keep the same kind of comedy going through it. I played another Crab's Treasure as part of the last Steam Next Fest, not the one that just gone, the one before that. It's kind of hard, actually. It's surprisingly difficult. Even I know it's meant to be a Souls game, it's a little more I wouldn't call it babies for a Souls game. It's a little more difficult than your typical one. Anyway, after that, we had a look at Penny's Big Breakaway. This was a stealth launch. It's actually out right now. We will talk more about Penny's Big Breakaway later. They had something about Suika game. I didn't see it on the video, so this might have been a region-specific thing. I don't know what Suika game is. And there's no video for it, so I'm going to move on. Pepper Grinder released at the end of March. There's a demo available for it now. We played it during Steam Next Fest. It is a platformer type thing where you have control of this big drill and you sort of move through the ground like almost like you're swimming through it, kind of like a dolphin. There's like waves and motions and stuff. It's a very satisfying game to play, so I'm quite looking forward to that. Pocket Cards Jockey Ride On was formerly a Japan exclusive game. It is a weird sort of combination of solitaire and horse racing. It's available today if you're really interested in it. If you're not, if you're sort of kind of thinking about it, there's also a demo. Okay, kind of weird one. Then we got the weird sort of rapid fire thing where they don't spend a lot of time on any one game. But shown off there was Pentiment, which is the second Microsoft game exclusive that has now become multi-platform. Again, Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. 22nd of February, which if you're looking at your calendar, has already passed, so it is already out if you're interested. I am. I've had it on PC for a while, been waiting to play it, and, well, to be honest, I'm just going to play it on a different platform now. Snufkin Melody of Moonman Valley. Snufkin is a very well-known Nordic, Scandinavian character. Coming out 7th of March. He's a very kind of cozy, fun character type. I think anyone in those countries know him pretty well. Contra, Operation Galuga, 12th of March. Contra is a pretty old series at this point. You have more than likely seen it and potentially not known what it was called. It's a side-scrolling bullet hell thing. It is the origin of the Konami code, up, down, down, such and such, to get you lots of lives because Contra was so fucking hard. Anyway, there's a demo again if you're interested. Kingdom Come Deliverance Royal Edition is arriving on Switch, which means I think it's now available on everything. March 15th, there's a demo. I would think the Switch will struggle to play that game, but we'll see. Tales of Kenzera Zao, again, we played as part of Steam Next Fest. I quite liked it. It's pretty interesting Metroidvania. End of April 23rd, 2024. Again, this was shown off Nintendo Direct, but it is going to be on Xbox and PlayStation and PC. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Sweep the Board. It's a Demon Slayer thing. I don't know. I don't know what sweep the board part means either. I don't know. You probably know it better. If you're a fan of it, you probably know it better than I do. And then second last thing we had to look at, some games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service, which is where Nintendo makes available some sort of retro titles and things like that. So 5 games coming from Rare. We have Snake, Rattle and Roll, RC Pro-Am, Battletoads and Battle Maniacs, and probably the big one, Killer Instinct, the original one. And they'll all be available on Nintendo Switch Online, so if you're already paying for the Nintendo Switch Online subscription service, you'll have access to those soon. I don't think a date was given. Oh, no, today, so it's already there. And then if you're paying for the expansion pack, you can get Blast additionally. I've never heard of Blast, but they seem to think it was good enough that they put it on the expansion pack. I would have put Killer Instinct there and pissed everybody off, but I would have put Killer Instinct there anyway. They finished with a game called Endless Ocean Luminous. Endless Ocean was a Wii U title, I think, exclusive. It's a very chill game where you explore an endless ocean, as you might imagine. It's a procedurally generated thing. It's a very chill thing where you just sort of catalog the animals and the flora, the fauna that you find in this endless ocean, diving all the way down to the depths where everything is dark and you would actually be dead if you went down that far, but it's a video game, so don't worry about it. Endless Ocean Luminous is effectively a sequel, but it's like a much bigger expansion thing, and it does have an online mode, which you can play with 30 other players in one instance, just swimming about the place. It's not all like real world fish and flora and fauna. There's like mythological creatures down there as well. It's very chill type of thing. Anyway, that was the Nintendo Direct. Um, big game. I'm not really sure what probably the big game shown off there would have been. Shin Megami Tensei for some people would have been pretty nuts. Other than that, yeah, nothing major. Knowing that Grounded and Pentiment are making their way over to Nintendo Switch, and now, as we know, it's going to be making its way to PlayStation as well. I'm gonna actually do this story first because this sort of leads on to what I was talking about. So moving away from the Nintendo Direct, there were also, of course, a lot of other updates. One very big trailer came out that I could talk about right after this, but I'm gonna finish up with the Xbox announcement thing. So last week, Phil Spencer mentioned that 4 games would be coming to the Microsoft platform, or sorry, would be non-exclusive on the Microsoft platform, and would be making their way to other third-party platforms, which he did not name. But we know now that they are Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, and we also know that these are the 4 games. I correctly guessed 3 of them, and I could not remember the 4th one, but Pentiment, you'll have to take my word for it, but Pentiment was the 4th one I was thinking of. I just couldn't think of it at the time. We now know that they are making their way to different consoles. Not all of them are making their way to Switch. Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush, I think, are not going to be on Switch, but all of them will be on PlayStation. So how's it working out? Pentiment will be PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch. It's already out. Want to give that a shot. Hi-Fi Rush will be PS5 only, not making its way to Switch. March 19th, middle of next month. Grounded, as was pointed out in the Nintendo Direct, it'll be PS4, PS5, and Switch, April 16th. And then Sea of Thieves will be a PS5 only game, April 30th. It is getting cross-platform support, so you will be able to play with people from Xbox and PC as well. Same with Grounded. So that'll be cool. Hi-Fi Rush I really liked, but the Steam Deck was kind of struggling to play it, so I'm happy that it'll be on a more powerful platform that will be able to actually play it properly. And for people who are interested in more physical titles, Limited Run Games are planning to make a physical release for Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush for the platforms that it's available for, so Xbox, PlayStation 5, and Switch for Pentiment, and then Xbox and PS5 for Hi-Fi Rush if you would rather own the physical disc. Right. The big trailer, of course, of the day was, or of the week, was the Elden Ring DLC. Shadow of the Erdtree has finally gotten a full trailer to show off. It is lengthy enough, it's about 3 minutes. If you haven't watched it, maybe, well, you can't pause a live stream, but maybe watch it first and then come back to it, because I'm going to be talking over it for the most part. So, it is what most people thought it was going to be. It is going to be following the story of Miquella. If you've played the game, you probably know who Miquella is already. It's effectively the one sibling we didn't see out of all of the other siblings in the main story of Elden Ring. If you're not familiar with it, I'm not going to tell you who Miquella is. Just go play the game, you'll figure it out. We were going to a land of shadow, the shadow of the Erdtree as it was. There is a part on the Elden Ring map that people had kind of guessed that that's probably where we're going. Playing the game, you would have noticed that you're never actually in the shade of the big tree that sits in the middle of the world. But this time, we are going to be in the shadow. A couple of NPCs showing off here, a couple of new... some interesting things from a lore perspective. The sort of jar things are different in the original game. We know a little bit about them, that they're a little more sad than they make out to be. Some new enemy types. We've got this, what is almost certainly a boss. It's kind of crazy, weird lion-looking thing, which potentially spews curse. That's going to be an annoying boss fight. And also shoots you with lightning. Also cool. And its head is attached to its body in a very strange way. This guy, though, has been shown off to be sort of the main antagonist, maybe, of the DLC. This is Mesmer the Impaler. An interesting look at Mesmer is the bright red hair. So the red hair is indicative of certain characters in Elden Ring, that he belongs to a particular bloodline. That is very important. They're showing off some new weapons here. You've got this multi-fire crossbow. You got this pickup, you can throw bombs. You've got a really cool kick kung fu thing. You've got this bear shout. Not clear if that's PvP or if one of those was an actual enemy type. You got this weird bow thing, I think. Showing off a couple of bosses and things like that. This guy might want to stop doing whatever it is he's doing. Anyway, it's positioning it that Mesmer is probably... aren't you... Normally that should be going through. I don't know if you guys heard that. Anyway, Mesmer is positioning itself as the main boss. Whether they will be or whether there'll be a sort of Melania optional boss thing. Of course, it's all optional. It's going to be DLC. You know, it's not the main thing. And then it's assumed that this is Mikola that you're seeing there. Anyway, Elden Ring, June 21st is when DLC will be out. Will I play it straight away? I don't know. Elden Ring, we did do a full Let's Play of it on the channel, but it was painful, so I may not. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I might do that one in my own time. Anyway, outside of that, Reinatus. I was meant to watch this trailer, but I didn't actually get around to it. From what I have seen of GIFs and things like that, it seems like it's pretty cool. Reinatus was a trailer shown off during the Nintendo Direct, but it was not shown off during Western-focused ones. So during the Nintendo UK stream or the Nintendo of America stream, did not show off the game. This was only shown off in Japan. It's been developed by Furyu, who make some pretty interesting JRPGs. So I'd be curious to see how well this plays out, and also be curious to see if it does make its way out of Japan. Hopefully it does, because it looks pretty good. Got some pretty cool combat sections. There's a little bit of a reminder of The World Ends With You, but that's mostly because it's taking place in the middle of Shibuya. But yeah, it looks pretty cool, and hopefully it will make its way out of Japan. Komuri, we had a look sorry, I keep pressing the wrong key. We had a look at this at the Game Awards. I think they showed this off. Kumi Nakamura's thing that she's been working on for a while, that she left Tango Gameworks to work on. Rather high profile, where she left Ghostwire Tokyo to kind of set this up herself. There is kind of some very small gameplay shots, and they're kind of talking about how the game is going to play out. And this, it is a fairly lengthy video. You see, it's like almost 10 minutes. It's kind of silly that that's considered lengthy, but here we are. Here's the future for you. Anyway, they're talking about the game and how it's shaping up and what kind of game it's going to be. It feels like it's going to be a kind of fast-paced Monster Hunter type. Maybe not. It's difficult to tell because you don't really see a whole lot of the actual gameplay. That seems to be where they're going with it. It's sort of a fusion of modern fashion and styles and things, because it looks like it's taking place in present day, but then there's obviously yokai and, you know, oldie weaponry and stuff like that. So we'll see how it actually plays out. Anyway, you guys can watch the rest of that if you're interested. And then out of nowhere, Little Devil Inside decided to drop a trailer and remind everybody that it actually exists still. They're still working on it. They've had a good few upsets in their development process. Some people have left the studio. So that's kind of slowed them down a little bit, but they have talked about seeking publishers and stuff like that. So it looks like they're at least still working their way through the game. Again, a fairly lengthy gameplay video here, but it does show off a lot of the game. And it still looks really, really good. I'm still very excited to play it. Still don't really know if it's a procedural thing or if these are all crafted missions and stuff like that. But hopefully we'll know more soon. But basically they kind of popped back up to say, hey, we're still working on it. Sorry, we've been silent for so long. Little Devil Inside is a Kickstarter game, but I believe they have received outside funding as well. So it's not a wholly Kickstarter funded title. Anyway, hopefully we'll see more of that in the future. Okay, less good news. Dungeons of Hinterberg has been delayed out to summer. They've delayed the single-player action RPG and social simulation game hybrid Dungeons of Hinterberg from its previously planned spring release window to summer. That's all we kind of know about it. It was also pointed out that it will be on Xbox Game Pass, and potentially, I think it's exclusive to Xbox and PC. I'm not sure if it's actually going to be... At least Gematsu seems to think so. Possible. Anyway, it's as I say every time games are delayed and so on. It's like, take your time. There are so many games still to play. Sony testing PSVR 2 compatibility with PC. You would think they would have done this already, but okay. They have been testing this for a while. This is sort of just to come out that they're actually making some headway with it now, and potentially you'll start seeing it later this year. Sony say they are currently testing the ability for PSVR 2 players to access additional games on PC to offer even more game variety in addition to the PSVR 2 titles available through PS5. So it would be pretty great if we could play Half-Life Alyx on the PSVR 2 and not have to buy a really expensive PC and a really expensive VR headset. Just have to buy the really expensive PC, I guess, instead. Anyway, you would think they would have done this ages ago. And you would think that they would have launched us with that compatibility already in, but no, they didn't. There's a proprietary bullshit in the way that stops you from being able to run really anything on the PSVR 2. You can't even watch like video or photos or just watch a film or anything in the headset. Which is kind of shit, but at least if they're going to work on it, that'll at least be interesting. God forbid they work on any actual games for it. Anyway, Epic game this week is Super Meat Boy Forever. If you somehow have not played Super Meat Boy at this point, well, it's free on Epic now, so you really have very few excuses left. Some monthly games, Game Pass for the second half of February. We can have a look at them here. So we've got Madden 2024, Bluey, the video game, Indivisible, Maneater, Space Engineers, Tales of Arise, and Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun. Madden, presumably, is your pretty standard American football game. Not a huge interest out of it for me. Bluey, the video game, for kids interested in it, or for the odd adult who might actually be interested too. Indivisible is a pretty good, pretty well animated RPG / platformer type thing. It's pretty great writing, really nice art style. It's got some really frustrating platform elements to it. The combat I really like, the platforming I didn't. You know, your mileage may vary. If you are subscribed to Game Pass, then you can just give it a shot for no additional cost. Maneater, it's Jaws, but Jaws wins. That's kind of it. Space Engineers, not heard of. Not entirely sure what kind of game that is. Tales of Arise is a really good JRPG. Action JRPG. And is also on PlayStation Plus this month, so they must be doing a deal with Namco for that. I think they're trying to get people to buy the DLC or something. Anyway, Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun. We actually played it on the channel as part of Fully Plays Games a bit. It's a pretty serviceable boomer shooter. Decent. Not amazing, not terrible. If you like the 40k stuff, you might get a bigger kick out of it than I did. Anyway, speaking of some of the games you could play soon, what if you wanted to play something right now? Well, you can play Pacific Drive, which is finally out on everything except the Switch. Pacific Drive, you are a person who has stolen their way into this isolated area of the Pacific Northwest of the United States. There's some weird physics shenanigans going on there that has required them to be effectively quarantined from the rest of the country. You managed to get your way in somehow. Why you wanted to do that, I don't know. But you did for some stupid reason, and now you are. And you're sort of stuck in there now, and now you need to survive. And the way you survive is with your car, because your car is somewhat immune to the weird physics shit going on out there. And a lot of the survival elements are making sure your car is safe, effectively, for you to make your way across this area. And dealing with all sorts of weird shit going on. Anyway, we will probably play this at some point on the channel. As I said, I was going to talk about Penny's Big Breakaway. So this was announced during the Nintendo Direct that it was a stealth launch, so it's available to play now if you're interested in. This is a really, really cool looking platformer game. It's got some really interesting movement with the yo-yo thing, because it has a lot of different forms and a lot of different modes. I'm quite excited to play it, and we are going to play it this week, probably Friday. That's my plan, at least. Last Epoch had been in, what do they call it? Early access on Steam for a good while. Last Epoch is effectively Diablo, but Diablo has gone to shit. So this is old Diablo when it wasn't shit. Where it wasn't laden with, you know, the AAA microtransaction bullshit that Blizzard has gone all in on these days. Last Epoch is like, no, just here's the game, have fun. Lots of different classes, you know, it's got the old Diablo style thing to it without the horrible live service shit on top of it. From what I've seen, as, you know, typical of launch time, servers are struggling to deal with everybody playing all at once. But I'm sure if you give it like a month or something, I'm sure the server issues will have died down, and then you can jump into it without too much fuss. I certainly will if it can run on the Steam Deck, because it is currently a PC exclusive. And then last is Slave Zero X. Slave Zero X is a remake of the Slave Zero game. It is a really gorgeous pixel art, side-scrolling slash 'em up type thing. So think like the old Strider games. It is just as hard as those as well. So this one probably won't be played on stream because I will just get very angry. But I'm looking forward to playing it off stream at least. Maybe I will. If I'm actually good at it, I might come back to it and show you guys that I'm at least middling at the game. Anyway, it looks gorgeous, and I really want to play it, but I just don't want to be shit at it. Anyway, moving on. Unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So, shock, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League fails to meet Warner Brothers' expectations. It failed to meet a lot of people's expectations. Warner Brothers, not just you. Anyway, it has allegedly fallen short of our expectations, according to Warner Bros. Discovery, yada yada yada, Gunnar Windenfels, financial officer. They did not, however, share any sales figures. That's important because Warner Brothers, or not Warner Brothers, sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Thinking about it. Come on. No? Alright, it's one of them ghost sneezes, I guess. They didn't share their sales figures, so we don't know exactly what short of expectations means. Because looking at the charts for, what were the top 10 games sold in retail and so on at a previous time, and it's like Tekken 8 is in there, then it's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and then there was another game, I forget what it was, but they were between 1 and 2 million sales, which means Suicide Squad is somewhere in the middle there. Now, whether that is, you have to take into account that they did have that early access thing as well, which is for a lot more money, so take some of that into account, and then also digital sales and so on, so who knows. But if those numbers are correct, then that's actually kind of good. So what are your expectations exactly? Were your expectations that literally everybody would buy the game? We've talked more about how executive expectations are ridiculous, and they're expecting everyone who owns a PlayStation to buy the game, and that's like it's expected that that's what'll happen, and not just a small percentage of people who own the console will buy it. Like, they must have known when it was getting bad press last year and it was delayed considerably. Like, they must have had to. Did they not redo their expectations? No? Did they not think, hey, maybe this won't do as well? And then also, it's kind of shitty for them to say it's fallen short of our expectations when they made the game you asked them to. Like, there's no one at Rocksteady who wanted to make a live service thing. They made the game you asked them to make, and now you're surprised that it didn't do well. Like, fuck you. And also, it's so unlikely that they're going to be the people who take the blame. It's going to be the people who had no choice in the matter. Anyway, moving on. GTA 6 developer sparks criticism with massive tax relief claims. So, this might be surprising to some people, but this has kind of been known for a good while. And it's not just in the UK, this happens in the US as well. This happens in a lot of countries where the government will give them, video game development studios, tax relief or stipend or something like that to sort of make games based in the area you're in, or to like promote jobs or job stability and that kind of thing. But the issue is they don't really look into it too much, and they don't really look into how much revenue, how much profit some of these studios make. Like Rockstar, who are being focused on for this particular article, absolutely should not have been getting this money, but they did. Activision similarly gets something similar. Similarly similar. Anyway, again, absolutely don't need that money, and in effect, the money they make off this tax relief means that if you ever attempted to boycott Activision or whoever, it's like it won't make a difference. The government's already giving them your money, whether you want them to or not. Anyway, it's reportedly claimed a staggering amount of money in tax relief over the last decade. This is Rockstar. £360.3 million which is about $450 million. Rockstar's claims alone amounted to over a third of the total tax relief granted to developers in the UK, so it's getting an outsized portion of it on top. On top of it not needing it in any way whatsoever, it's getting most of it. One studio getting a massive share. Rockstar has not paid any UK corporation tax since being accredited for the government tax break in 2015, and it's made profits of £450 million on a total turnover exceeding £2.1 billion. None of it that's going back to the country where the game is being developed. It's not going back into, the government or to, improve roads, to improve the NHS over in the UK or anything like that. That's just going in the coffers of Rockstar. Of course, it was brought up, why is a huge studio like Rockstar was eligible for this measure in the first place? It's because nobody checks. Nobody checks these kind of things. Because video games are for kids, so of course we're going to help them with the tax, That's the kind of mentality you're dealing with people in government. They're too old and don't know who Rockstar are, don't know who Activision are, don't know who Epic are, and so on. Anyway, this isn't exactly new, but rather staggering how much they're getting away with. Like 2015, they've been doing it since. Okay, speaking of stupid shit going on in the industry, I guess Sega's new Crazy Taxi game will be AAA in scope. What are you doing? Crazy Taxi is not a AAA game. Guys, this is a very, short bursts of gameplay type game. There's a reason it was in the arcade and did so well in the arcade and didn't do particularly great on home consoles. Because it is meant for very short bursts of gameplay. The gameplay is just pick up guy, get to the other side of the map as fast as you can. That's it. That's Crazy Taxi. How you're going to turn that into a AAA thing and not lose that gameplay loop of pick up guy, go to the other part of the map, pick up another person, go to the other part of the map, and so on. Get there as fast as you can. Find a cool route to do it. Do stunts maybe along the way or something. I don't know. But yeah, what are you doing? Why are you making this... investing so much, AAA means effectively, it has really very little to do necessarily with the quality of the game. It has mostly to do with how big a budget it's going to get. So you're talking triple, 100 million plus dollars, euro, pound, whatever you want to look at, considerably more in yen. That's too much. That's too much for a new Crazy Taxi. What are you doing? It does not need that kind of money. You have a very simple gameplay type here that does not require a budget so egregious. Sega aren't exactly doing well financially, and they're throwing way too much money into a game that cannot sustain that level of gameplay. We'll see. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I don't think I will be. Nightingale offline mode in the works after negative feedback. So Nightingale launched into early access this week. Nightingale is from a bunch of former BioWare developers, I think. It's effectively a survival type game that is set in a sort of sci-fi Victorian era steampunk type thing, where you can jump to different dimensions and things like that and set up your fort or your house or whatever you want to call it. But the issue was that it's always online. It requires you to be online for the whole game, and that's where the negative feedback is coming from. From the developer themselves, our vision for the game since inception was to create an interconnected series of realms with the idea for allowing for cooperative exploration in mind, and because of that, and they felt that would be the bigger technical hurdle to manage, they implemented that first, but for whatever reason decided not to go with an offline mode. That meant we made a choice early in development between supporting co-op from day one or focusing development on an offline mode. They decided to go with the first one because they felt that would be the more difficult one to do, and to be fair, it would be. Looking back on that decision though, we misjudged what some of you were looking for in your experience, they admitted. And it must be a different article, but there's another article that has a bunch of reviews from people going why the fuck is this game always online? I'm playing by myself. So many people are I'm playing the solo. Why the fuck do I have to play this on? Why is it online all the time? So yeah, they're going to implement an online only game. Why is this an industry bullshit? Because why? Why did you not think there should be an offline mode for a game that will almost certainly be played predominantly single player? It's not like you didn't hear this from people. It's not like you haven't heard this from every single video game that's been always online that didn't require it. That people haven't been why the fuck is this always online? Like, this is a pretty well-known bugbear of the video game community, that if a game does not require me to be online, why does it require me to be online? And yet it's still happening. Anyway, you know why, of course. It's so they can sell you shit. Anyway, moving on. Tekken 8 community up in arms over plans to add premium currency to game post-launch. Speaking of trying to sell you shit, so the big issue here is that Tekken 8, Namco Bandai, have added an in-game shop with the microtransaction shit, buying skins, all that crap that you know about, but it was not there when the game launched. And it was not there when the game was reviewed. So it is taken that they deliberately kept it out of the main game when it was being reviewed, when it was at the height of its newsworthiness, you know, when everyone was talking about it. They deliberately kept the shop out so no one would see it. And this is not the first studio to do it. Activision have done it before as well, where they deliberately kept the shop out and then later on threw it in. There is too much design and artwork and so on, back-end stuff required to deal with like real money and all that kind of thing, required that there's no way they thought about doing this in the in-between time. They definitely had planned to do this. So the idea that they just waited and then threw it in at the end, or threw it in after all the hype had died down rather, is very shitty. Not only that, it's for people who have difficulty with this sort of, you know, gambling and mini buys and you know, buying skins, that kind of thing, and they're trying to avoid it. You know, they're trying their best because they know they have an issue with it. So they're going, okay, I don't want to play a game that's going to make me spend real money to get things. Does Tekken 8 make me spend money to right? They check the review and it says, no, there's none of that in there. Cool, I will get Tekken 8 then. I can enjoy that. I don't have to worry about this thing where I have to buy skins and money. And then later on, they actually, it turns out, no, you do have to spend money to buy the skins and shit. Fuck. This great game that I really liked to play, and now I can't play it because it's gonna fucking make me bankrupt. Now, on their side of it, it is buying game currency for real money, but technically no, because 2K says you don't own that money, but whatever, we'll get back to that later. It's only $4 a skin, instead of Street Fighter's like $20 a skin or whatever it is. Like, yeah, okay, it's cheaper. I wouldn't say it's cheap. It's cheaper, exactly. The developers did acknowledge we would like people to, you know, maybe consider that current game development requires this kind of thing, etc., etc. The point we are trying to make is that it's not like it's going into the coffers of Bandai Namco. We want to improve the game with these updates we're providing for free. In order to do that, we have a large development team that we have to pay for. This is how we're using those funds to try and make the game, yada yada yada. So you buying the skins helps keep people paid to work on the other stuff for Tekken 8. That is the old story for why microtransactions were added in games. We know that's bullshit now. That's never what, because people got fired. You know, people get ramped down, they get taken off the project just dies, whatever it is. And the money just does go into Bandai Namco's coffers. And has been pointed out also, Tekken 8 made a shit ton of money. So Tekken 8 costs $70 already, and is now asking you to spend even more money. But also, the game sold around 2 million copies. $2,070,000 is they don't need this money. They really do. They can absolutely pay their staff. So this is another just cash grab again, and they did it deliberately, or they avoided telling anybody about it deliberately when it was at its zenith for newsworthiness, and now they've sort of just slipped it in. You slipped it in because this is the only article about it. You know, I have a lot of other outlets that I take articles from, Eurogamer, Kotaku, and so on. These are the only people I've seen actually talking about it, that they've just decided to slip it in. Intentionally kept on the down low is very disgusting practice. But it's not just them. But there are plenty of other people have been doing it as well, and it's just as shit when they do it too. Anyway. Last thing, somewhat better news. The IGN Creators Guild that we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think, has been voluntarily recognized by Ziff Davis, who's the parent company of IGN. So that's good, because it means they don't have to go through the courts and through the NLRB, and it's going to take a really long, drawn-out process for them to get nominated and officially recognized as a union. So they've decided to voluntarily do that, which means they're going to play ball with them. So that's good. Hopefully they keep doing that. when they eventually have to make, salary demands and things like that. But the fact that it's been voluntarily recognized means they can now say legally that they're a proper recognized union by the parent company and so on. Which means they can't do layoffs and salary changes and stuff without going through the union. Anyway, what's happening over in the community? So we've had a look at what's happening in the industry, but what about over in the community? So Baldur's Gate 3 devs working on robust cross-platform mod support. So Baldur's Gate 3, very popular game of the year in a lot of different places. And as is fitting with, very popular games, it has considerable mod support over on PC. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of mods. None of them are officially recognized, but there's a ton of them over on Nexus Mods. However, the studio has said that official mod support is coming to the critically acclaimed game, though precisely when is still up in the air. So official mod support means they would actually make like documentation for how you do things, where to change things when you want to change colors, scripting for characters, things like that, where that all gets done, where you can inject it, where to change the files, and all that kind of thing, instead of just guessing what a lot of mod work is. I'm gonna change this and see what happens. Oh, it broke the game. Okay, I won't change that. So on. But the really interesting thing is that it will work across platforms. Now, this is pretty rare. You very rarely see mods make their way, and mod support make its way out of PC and over to Xbox, PlayStation, because they're very closed gardens. Everything has to be certified and so on. I'll be curious to see how they manage to pull this off. And I'll be curious to see what mods don't make it across. Because Skyrim does have official mod support on Xbox and PlayStation, but there are a very limited number of mods that made their way to different platforms, and even between Xbox and PlayStation, there are very different mods that made their way over. But this is really great news. We've been working on a robust cross-platform plan for mod support to be released later in the year. We love our modding community, and we want to support them. To be fair, they have been very good with like the Divinity games for mod support and stuff like that. Community managers will start talking with and looping in the modding community to ensure that things don't break when mod support arrives. So the mods that are already very popular, they want to make sure that they don't break at the same time. So to make sure that, okay, so what did you change in the mod support thing? Is this going to affect the current mod? And yes, okay, so I need to change that, or I don't need to change that, or whatever. That's basically what they're doing, and that's the way you're meant to do it. That's the way it should be done. So good news. When it'll show up? Later in the year. I imagine they're going to have to get sign off from both Microsoft and Sony for that one. We'll see. I feel like Sony will be the more reluctant one because modern Sony are just very shit. Anyway, PlayStation Portal has been hacked to run PSP games offline. So the Portal is a streaming only device, typically. Sony brought it out. All it's meant to do is stream your PS5. That's it. That's all it's meant to do. It's a pretty shit use case for what is going to be some fairly expensive hardware that they would have used to make this work. It's kind of dumb. I honestly thought it was just a really dumb use case for it. It's like, this is a very expensive thing for something that like 2% of people who own PlayStations are going to have an issue with, but okay. All it's meant to do is offer streaming functionality and literally nothing else. However, some Google researchers, Andy Nguyen among them, have managed to hack the device to play games locally. So specifically, they've managed to get the PSP emulator, the PPSSPP, yes, it is called that, emulator to run what are just PSP games and get them to run natively without connecting online or streaming or anything. They just run off the hardware that's there. So the emulator is able to run off most mobile devices. So the guess is that the PlayStation Portal is probably running some kind of Android OS under the hood. So it's expected that that's probably how they've been able to do it. In fact, it actually says that. Okay, I must have read this and then just glossed over it. He also notes that the Portal reportedly runs via Android, so that's, I imagine, how they've managed to do it in the first place. Even more funnier, the Portal port, if you like, of the PSP emulator is called PPPSSFPPP, because of course. Anyway, unfortunately, though, there are no plans to release the hack because this was just a research thing by Google. Or a Google person specifically. I don't think it was officially from Google themselves exactly. But if it can be done, someone else will probably figure it out. An eye on that if you're one of the like 2 people who own one of these things. Anyway, we'll leave episode 5. I think is probably the bigger release this week. Anyway, that was your news for the 19th to the 25th of February 2024. Some interesting things coming out of Nintendo Direct. A lot of it just, partner stuff. It wasn't a first-party Nintendo Direct. We got some confirmation on what's happening with those Microsoft non-exclusives now. So we do have officially, now we know it's the 2 live service games, Sea of Thieves and Grounded, and then the 2 kind of smaller games, Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush. Which makes sense, because they're already sold at less than the typical price. Pentiment's like $20. Hi-Fi Rush, I think it's $30, maybe $40. And they would have launched directly into Game Pass, so I would say they probably lost a lot of just outright purchases. I'd say a lot of people played it through the Game Pass service, so this is a way for them to make actual money off those games, because they're not going to be added to the PlayStation Plus catalog. So, and obviously Nintendo Switch doesn't have something like that in the first place. So yeah, if you're going to play it on any of those platforms, you're going to have to buy the game outright, I would imagine. I would be pretty surprised to see Hi-Fi Rush or Pentiment end up on PlayStation Plus. It might, but I would be pretty surprised to see it. We also saw the Elden Ring Shadow of the Earth Tree DLC trailer. People are picking it apart and finding things and finding interesting lore aspects to it, and of course interesting gameplay aspects to it, and trying to figure out where exactly in the game world it takes place. Is there a time jump thing going on? A lot of the Soulsborne DLCs do typically do a time jump, but it looks like this one is contemporary with the main plot, so that will be interesting to see if it's its own thing. Is it interwoven with the main story instead? Again, Soulsborne stuff tended to be its own thing and wasn't woven into the main plot. It was just its own side sort of thing that you just go there, you do the DLC, and you come back. Or you wait till the end of the game in the case of Bloodborne, because otherwise you get your ass kicked. That's very much an end game DLC. Similarly, I think Dark Souls 2, I think a lot of that DLC is considered end game. The third one, definitely end game. Anyway, again, June 21st, we'll know more about it then. There is a community event on the June 20th for everybody to fight Moog, who's the boss, who is guarding Miquella's corpse, allegedly, and potentially it's not Miquella's corpse now. He think he might have the wrong corpse, which would be very Moog, to be honest. Anyway, that's a really hard boss. He's not quite the hardest boss, but he is a pretty tough optional boss. He's one of the few bosses I didn't play, or I didn't fight on stream. I ended up fighting him off stream, just because he was very frustrating. Nowhere near as frustrating as Melania, but pretty frustrating. Anyway, other things. We had a look at that game from Furyu, what I forget what the fuck it's called now, but it looked interesting. Thing that looked like The World Ends With You. Dungeons of Hinterberg has been delayed. Sony are working on PSVR 2 PC compatibility. Hopefully that works out well. There are a lot of really good PC VR games that I'm somewhat locked out of playing. I don't have a very good PC. And if I was going to get like a new PC, I wouldn't have the money to buy like a really good rig and a really good VR headset to go with it. So, if I can put that money into the rig instead and not have to split it between the two, that'd be good. I would much rather do that. As well as just the kind of smaller PC VR games that I absolutely would be able to play off this PC, but can't because I don't have a proper PC VR headset. Anyway, we'll look into more of that. I kind of feel like that should have just been a thing when the headset launched in the first place. I feel like that's a missed opportunity. People would have already heard that it doesn't work with PC, and now getting the word out to say that actually now it does. I think they kind of lost their moment. I don't think people are going to hear that. Anyway, Xbox Game Pass has some interesting games coming to it. Indivisible and Tales of Arise are probably the standouts for me. You may find differently. Maybe Madden 24 is your standout. I don't know. New games this week. Pacific Drive, you can see, is playing in the background now. We also have Penny's Big Adventure. Penny's Big Breakaway, I think is what it's called. I think it's Penny's Big Breakaway is what it's called. Slave Zero X and something Last Epoch. I'm waiting on Last Epoch because I want to find out if it has proper Steam Deck support or not. I know it has Proton support, which is what Steam Deck runs off, built in Unity. but Steam Deck has a particular flavor of Proton that doesn't always play well with those kind of things. So we'll see. Hopefully it does, because I would like more Diablo, but I don't want to play Diablo 4 because Blizzard is gross now. Anyway, industry bullshit. Sega, for some reason, want Crazy Taxi to be a AAA game. What are you doing? It is not a AAA game. It's a good game. Crazy Taxi is a fun game. It's not AAA, guys. It does not need that kind of budget. What are you doing? Rockstar just eating at the table of public funds and not giving anything back. Again, it's not exactly surprising. What's more surprising is just how much money they're getting, but they're very much not the only studio doing that. They're not the only big studio doing that in the UK or the US and so on. A lot of the major studios are doing it. This is how video game hubs show up. This is why, like, Montreal in Canada is such a big hub for video games, because a lot of the tax stuff is done there. I don't know how egregious it is. Is Ubisoft just getting all of the money? That's why they're up there in Canada? I don't know. Possibly. Anyway, I'm sure there was other things, but my mind is blanking right now. So we're going to move on to our channel update. To be honest, there is not a whole lot to talk about in the channel update. Mostly because we didn't stream this week. I absolutely had my intention to stream this week, but I didn't. Anyway, so this is unchanged. This is our game card for 2024. These are the games I'm intending to do full Let's Plays of. So green ticks, they're already done. If you want to check them out, they're over on the YouTube archive channel, youtube.com/doom5. Yellows are in progress. Yes, Monster Hunter is there. I know. I'll get to it at some point. I don't know. Very much been paused for quite a while now. Banishers and Raincode are still in progress, and then Bone Totem we have down here that we are going to start playing this week. My intention was to start playing it last week, but I didn't get around to it. Anyway, there's a few more here. I'm trying to see ones that are coming out this year and if they're already out. Alone in the Dark is not out yet. Inquisitor is out. I want to play the demo first just to see how jank it is. If it's very jank, I might just play it myself and not subject you guys to it. On the other hand, if it's funny jank, we might play it. Let's see. Locomotive is not out yet. 100 Waves is. But we'll have to get around to that at some point. Post Trauma. I don't even know if Post Trauma is even coming out this year. It might. It might not. On Your Tail's not out yet. Bloodlines is not out yet. Replace. Again, I think this is going to be pushed into next year. And Rise of Golden Isle's not out yet. Sant is out. I should go around playing that. Pentiment, as we know, is now available on a lot of things. Still Wakes the Deep is not out yet. We don't know what's going on with the Dark Pictures, whatever. Supermassive are working on too many games right now. And then Tears of the Kingdom, that's going to be fucking huge. Let's play. Alright, anyway. That's unchanged from last week. And the schedule is similarly unchanged. Friday is the only real change. I had D&D this week, and a lot of the reason I wasn't streaming was because of D&D. I had a lot of work to do on it, way more than I was expecting, and it just was quite draining to try to stream and do D&D at the same time, so I just figured I'll just do the D&D. I needed a break from the streams anyway, and to be honest, I still need a break. I need like a month off, to be honest. Not just from streaming, just just need a month off to just go into hyperbaric chamber and go to sleep, and have everybody leave me alone. Anyway. So Banishers, we're going to back-to-back Tuesday and Wednesday. Stasis Bone Totem, we're going to start on Thursday. Penny's Big Breakaway, called. We're going to play as part of my A Bit series, Fully Plays Games A Bit, which is where we just play the opening 2 or 3 hours of the game, just to get an impressions of it. And Raincode will continue on Saturday. And then we'll be right back around to the weekly news recap, what you're watching right now. So that will be the plan going forward for this week, and hopefully I will actually get to it. So yeah, D&D took up a lot of my time in the evening this week, and then also I just was not having a great mental health week, to be honest. Pretty down for the whole thing. Particularly sure why. I don't think anything triggered it exactly, just it was a bad week. Sometimes it happens. And anyone who's had a, full 9 to 5, 10 to 6, whatever it is job, and then jumps onto streaming afterwards, you know how tired you are in the evening, and I was just a little too tired every day. This is obviously a problem. And then I knew I had to work on D&D, and I liked working on it. It's not a chore, right? I really enjoy it. And I was adding a lot of cool mechanics to the party that are not official. It's all homebrew, really weird stuff. Reading up on a lot of kind of Diablo things before Diablo got gross, and just making things seem more fluid, giving people more things to do instead of just roll the dice and see what happens. Now they have additional things they can do as well. We'll see how they play out. We had a bit of a test play on Friday, and some of them are fine, and then some of them are hilariously broken and absolutely need to be rethought. And then one of them, it's taking a lot of agency away from the player, and I actually don't like that. I think I had the idea is that he kind of lose control and he turn into like a feral beast and just go crazy and nuts. But the problem is the player actually has very little input after that, and I'm like, yeah, that's not great. So I'm gonna rethink that one. And then there's one of them that's like a little too easy to make incredibly powerful, and would just wipe out most enemy parties. Like, okay, it's cool, but it's too cool. I need to nerf that absolutely. Anyway, and the other ones I think are fine. They work okay. We'll see. But for right now, I think they're fine. Anyway, enough about D&D. That's not what this channel's about. This is our schedule. Hopefully I'll see you guys on Tuesday for some Banishers, or Wednesday for more Banishers, or Thursday for Stasis Bone Totem, which is an interesting, grim point-and-click thing. Penny's Big Breakaway is the complete, absolute opposite of Stasis Bone Totem. Is a very quick, colourful, fun, zany, platformy type thing. And then Raid Code is kind of strangely in the middle. It is also a zany, colourful thing, but it's also grim, really grim. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you for some of those next week. Right. Thanks for keeping me company, and I'll see you guys when I see you.